Hello everyone, May Caleb here, and welcome to my special presentation on releasing your fears and reclaiming your life. I'm so happy that you could join me. Some of you may know me as an energy balancing person with larger than life energy, wife, mother, friend, and even a real estate professional. And while all of that is true, I'm also an author, a motivational speaker, and someone who can inspire you into your life of greatness. I'd like to take a moment to speak to you about fear and fear conditioning and how those fear conditionings impact our life physically and outwardly. We hold fears in different parts of our body. Some hold them in the esophagus and the heart space. Some hold them in the abdomen. Some people hold fear in their shoulders and their lower back, their middle back. I've seen people's backs completely collapse because of the stresses caused by fear. Some of us hold fear in our hips, our knees, and our feet. You know, that fear of being afraid to step forward. Fear shows up and manifests in our life in so many different ways. One of the ways that fear shows up is in lack of financial abundance. Yes, there have been many visionaries and thought leaders who have come to the forefront to show us how to co-create and manifest the life of abundance. And while I don't discount any of that information, I think that all of the information they have is wonderful. However, what I would like to share with you today is the thought process of fear that surrounds money. Some people actually have a fear of money. They have a fear of success. They have a fear of stepping into their life of greatness. And I'm here to help spread the word that there's nothing to fear. We've all been promised a life of abundance, but that promise did not come without the need to claim it, which means we need to do the work. So first, I'd like to share with you some thoughts about greed and how the energy of greed impacts our thoughts about wealth and money. Some people look at others who are wealthy with disdain, with a negative vibration, a negative energy, a negative thought. Oh, that person, maybe took advantage of another person and that's how they got their wealth. Oh, that person or that business or that corporation is extremely wealthy and they don't do anything for other people. They got it on the backs of someone else again. And how about this one? Money doesn't grow on trees. I can't afford that. I only make X amount of dollars. Those are all thoughts that you contribute to your own lack of wealth, okay? And I'll explain that later. I'd also like to talk to you about your life and whether you operate from a place of your heart or whether you operate from a place of shame and guilt. Those are also two of the most negative, lower vibrating energies that I personally consider one of the biggest waste of energies of our time. We've been manipulated through fear to feel shame and guilt for things that we shouldn't feel shame and guilt for. One being sexuality, and I'm not saying go out there and fornicate with everybody and their brother, but we're sexual beings. And we have been led down this path that somehow sex and sexuality is bad. Now, I don't agree with using sex and sexuality to sell things. I don't agree with using children and child pornography. That is not what I'm saying. But what I am saying is, and I'm going to give another example, a simple example of how we operate from a place of guilt and shame in our lives. Say, for example, a family picnic, barbecue, holiday, anything. I'm just using family. You could use a friend, you could use a coworker, you could put any entity into that space and understand where I'm going with this. How many times have you been contacted by someone who has said, hey, so-and-so, we're getting together at this date and this time and we're doing this, and we want you to come. You've got to come, bring the pie, bring the whatever. It's the holidays. What do you mean you're not going to come? Well, if you go and you don't want to be there, you're not coming from your heart space. You're not stepping into that with love. You're there out of guilt. Someone manipulate. I've even forgotten how to manipulate, so giving you a really good example of guilt manipulation is lacking here. But you get the picture, because I know that some of you right now sitting there listening to me completely identify with that saying. And how about self-doubt? Have you ever wanted to do something outside of yourself, something different, but you didn't because you were afraid? Maybe you heard that conditional, limited self-talk. You know, that self-doubt talk, the one that says, "Are you crazy? You can't do that. What would others think?" Or, "It's not safe," or, "I can't afford it. I can't do that." Well, I'm here to ask you, what if you could? What if you should? Imagine for a moment what your life might look like if you listen to that voice of greatness. I'm not talking about the nagging voice of self-doubt that keeps you in that limited space. You're just locked in that space of limited experience, limited thought process, and limited greatness. Your life is pretty mundane and you just trudge along day to day doing the same stuff at the same time, expecting different results. It's not going to happen, friends. What if you listened to that still small voice inside your head that said, "I would really like to do this"? And instead of saying, "Oh, I can't," or "How am I gonna?" you're like, "Okay, I'm going to do that." And you just say, put in the steps to doing it. I know that this seems a little alarming for some of you, or you're saying to yourself, "Oh, it's not that simple." And for some of you, it might not be, because the fear conditioning is so ingrained in your body that you don't know how to remove it. Let me give you an example. I have a client, and I don't release names, that I helped recently discover one of their greatest fears. And when I worked the process of the 10 simple steps with my client on how to focus first on what that fear is and how to release it from her body, or where it showed up in her body, she told me it showed up in her esophagus. She felt a tightness in her throat and she couldn't breathe. Well, I knew right away that she probably had esophageal reflux issues, acid reflux. Probably sometimes had issues with her voice. Not that she couldn't speak or sing, she has a great, lovely voice, but it's stepping into and owning your voice. That's a different story. That's one example. I have another client where she had a lot of self-doubt. She lacked self-love. And I could recognize this. This person didn't recognize it because she had developed habits of living her life in a way that was not conducive to self-love. She couldn't find love on the outside because she didn't love herself on the inside. Others can't love you if you're not willing to love yourself. So we worked on her. It took a little bit of time, but within a year's time, which I found was interesting, she was engaged and subsequently married. She's still married today to the same person, and like everybody else, we have our issues, but you know what? She found the ability to love herself. She stopped the limited self-doubt talk, and we created a space for her to step into where she could live and rise to her greatness, at least in the area of love. And there are many areas, I know, and I know that fears are different. They go into different, they go a myriad of ways, and I'm not here to make light of people's fears. There are certain fears I can't help you with. I'm not a doctor. I'm not a psychologist. I don't prescribe medication. I work more from an energy, subconscious, conscious level within the body to help you release those things on your own. You come to recognize them. You come to claim them. You come to release them on your own terms, in your own time.